Welcome to the Answers for Elders radio show. Meet the trusted experts who will give you straight answers and will help guide you on the path of later life care. Now, here's your host, founder, caregiver, and CEO, Suzanne Newman.
And welcome everyone to Answers for Elders Radio Network. And we are here again with another 4-part series with Rebecca Bomann, the founder and CEO of SASH Senior Home Sales Services. That's Sell a Senior Home, SASHservices.com. And we're so honored every time Rebecca comes back because Rebecca has so much in the way of understanding the dynamic of families. And as they're going through the transitions of not only selling a senior's home, but it's usually in a time of huge transition for a family. There's a lot of emotions in place, a lot of different types of scenarios. And if you're a family out there, you have a family out there that is going through changes or is expected to go through some changes, I think this is a show you may want to listen to. And so, Rebecca, thank you for coming and joining us today.
Thank you, Suzanne, as always, for having me. And I really appreciate that you're taking time to talk about the family because they play an outsized role in a lot of these big life steps that the seniors go through, whether it's the sale of the home or moving into assisted living or from assisted living into a different kind of home, moving from independence to needing care on a regular basis.
Moving in with their adult children.
Yep. Giving up the car keys.
You name it, finding a new place, both the adult children and the adult and the senior moving into a separate home. I've seen that before. There's a lot of different dynamics that happen for sure.
There are. And I think what we want to do today, Suzanne, and what I really want to do is just say to the adult children and the family out there, we see you, we hear you. We know the kind of responsibility that it is to be a caregiver, and it's a lot. It's an honor, it's a privilege, but it's also a lot. And oftentimes people feel like they're all by themselves. Nobody understands the hours that they're putting in, the sacrifices that they're putting in. And we do understand, and we want to give a shout out today to all the family members that, you know, give up their time, their weekends, their evenings, their lunch hours to be that caregiver and advocate for their senior loved one.
Very true. Very true. And I know, Rebecca, you know, as when you're going through a major change like that, there's stress, there's overwhelm, there's confusion, there's strife, but all of this, the emotions that we all feel, it's really easy to come apart at the seams to the people that you love, especially in a family unit. And I'm sure with you working with the families, especially, more so than a lot of maybe senior providers, they will deal with maybe the senior and one, you know, adult child. You're in a different situation where you're probably seeing, you know, all of the children in many cases.
I'm seeing all the children
and sisters and brothers and spouses and ex-husbands and ex-wives and all kinds of stuff. I bet you do.
Yes, I have sat at a dining room table before where the senior couple was there and their 6 children and their 6 children's spouses. And they were all seated around the table looking at me going, okay, what are you going to tell us about how we can sell our parents' home?
Oh, wow.
And you're absolutely right. There's a whole gamut of emotion. And I think in particular, because it is the family home, maybe they're not going to show up if there's just a health appointment. Maybe they're not going to show up if there's just, you know, taking care of the dog or things like that. But then folks find out, oh, mom and dad are thinking of selling the home, you know, then emotions really do come out and a lot of opinions, and people feel very strongly about whether mom or dad should sell their home. And unfortunately, this can breed a lot of conflict and stress. Some of that's directed at the senior homeowner, unfortunately. And boy, Suzanne, I have seen so many different scenarios So we just wanted to take today to talk through some of this with your listeners and to really say, first of all, we hear you, we see you, and we want to explain a few things that happen regularly in families that are going through these kinds of big stressful transitions, so that maybe you know that it's pretty normal what you're experiencing with your own siblings.
Yeah, and it's true, because how often do even I get phone calls saying, this is what's going on with my family, and I can pretty much pigeonhole the type of family it is by kind of the first conversation. It's kind of interesting because we all think that we're this unique, that nobody goes through what we go through, and that couldn't be farther from the truth, because we do go through things
and
like
just
that.
From my own personal experience, I was only 25 when I started to take care of my grandfather, who is 82, and he was a tough old Marine. He had been a Marine Corps officer for 21 years. He fought in a couple of wars, and he said, "I'm not living with my kids, and I'm not living with old people." And, he was just very firm about that. And so my husband and I invited him to live with us. We purchased, just for the purpose of taking care of him, a 2,000 square foot Rambler so that he would have no stairs. He got the master suite, and he was in our home for 1.5 years until the last month of his life. And
Rebecca,
I had the round the clock care. In addition, I had a 1-year-old and a newborn at that time. So there was all of us together, and I'm, jumping between the needs of a newborn, a 1-year-old, and an 82-year-old. And so I did feel all of the motions of being a caregiver, of helping my grandfather with his home sale, of all of his needs. And that's why when an adult child calls SASH, and they're burned out, they're overwhelmed, they don't know where to start, they haven't had a weekend off in 2 months, they're working around the clock, and they still feel like they're coming short, we just really want to extend compassion to them and empathy.
Absolutely.
Because they need our support, and they're doing a huge thing for their senior loved one by being that passionate advocate for them during those hard times.
Well, and I think the other part of that is when you're that thick in it, it's hard to let go.
Yes.
It's hard to say that, to place your trust into somebody out from outside yourself to say it's going to be okay. And this is why we have to have this conversation today, because I think a lot of times, we all have our preconceived ideas that it's okay, that only I know how to take care of my mom or my dad. And it's not that we're trying to replace you as people, but we are here to support you and your loved one. So it's
exactly.
And I think that's the thing that I'm excited to talk about today.
Yeah. And especially, I say sometimes how silly it would be if we went to a football game and there was just the quarterback all by themselves on the end of the field with no team around them. And so the best, most important thing that I like to do for families is to start bringing in a team around them, a team of professionals who are experts in their field, who are supportive, who are empathic, who are compassionate, who can provide guidance. And even, sometimes the best thing I can do for an adult child who's calling our office is just listen for an hour. Just let them express, the stress, the things that have been hard. They're at the end of their rope. They're working so hard. They're trying to balance their full-time job, their home responsibilities, their caregiver responsibilities, and some sibling conflict is going on, and they just feel like they don't know where to turn. So we want to just provide that support, and we do understand, and we want to say to everyone, build a team around you of professionals and social workers and caregivers and people that can keep you going strong while you're in this important role. And you had that job as well, Suzanne, in your mother's life.
I did. And and my family came apart at the seams. And I, now looking back in it retrospect, I was just as much a piece of that as they were. But I did not have the knowledge and the understanding of what resources were out there at the
Sure.
time that I didn't realize that I could have made a lot of better decisions along the way had I not just, let go and let somebody that knew what they were doing to help me. And I guess that's the thing that, this is why I do what I do, Rebecca, is I
Yes.
do this every day. I have this career because I don't want families to go through what I went
Yes.
through. And I think that's why, we're here today, and certainly we're excited to hear you talk about. So I guess we have about 1 minute left in this first segment. Fill me in on just, I guess, the first step of, if we're going to talk about in the next segment, what are we going to be doing to move forward as far as the family? So how can you lead us in?
So what we want to do in our next segment is just talk about some typical roles that siblings and family members fall into, and why they fall into that, and how that can impact the whole family dynamic, and then how we can provide support to those people in
Perfect.
our care for the senior.
Yes.
Because we're not just taking care of the senior. When I come in to sell a senior's home, I'm getting a lay of the land of the whole family, and I'm here to support them too.
Absolutely. And, for each and every one of you out there, if you're looking at, a potential living change with your loved one, it's like, these are the kind of things that we all go through in families. It's normal to have all these emotional feelings about, especially if it's the home that you grow up in. Maybe there's different memories that could be good or bad, and we're going to talk about that. So in the meantime, Rebecca, how do we reach you?
People can find out more about SASH Services on our website, sashservices.com, and can call us at 888-400-SASH, that's 7274.
Fabulous. And guess what, everyone? Rebecca and I will be right back right after this. We at Answers for Elders thank you for listening. Did you know that you can discover hundreds of podcasts in our library on senior care? So visit our website and discover our decision guides that will help you also navigate decision making. Find us at answersforelders.com.